This is Positive Moments with Jean Walters Lucy, personal growth consultant, teacher, author, and lecturer. Hello again, everybody. I'm Richard Miller. Welcome to another Positive Moments with Jean Walters Lucy. Today's show is entitled Fear Shuts Out Peaceful Self. And now here's Jean.
Franklin Roosevelt said, "The only thing we have to fear is fear itself." At the time, our country was going through a precarious period. Roosevelt's staunch affirmation helped to pull the United States together, and it introduced hope to a depression-darkened country. We've all known fear, and we've all groped for hope. We can also reassure ourselves the same way that Roosevelt did the nation. During these grim moments, there is a part of you that remains quiet and secure. And yet, when you fill your mind with the gloom of fear, it is hard to recognize that peaceful place inside, and yet it is always present. You energize a fear, whether it be the loss of a job or a loved one, or being without money or love, when you give it attention. In fact, the more energy you give it, the more vital it becomes, and soon it takes over your thinking. A healer named Jack Schwartz said, "That which you identify with ultimately dominates you." Identification with fear is paralyzing. Fear possessed a girl named Josephine, who was afraid of losing her boyfriend. Being insecure, Josephine took comfort in George's presence and came to depend on him to fill her need for acceptance. As her dependency grew, so did her fear. She imagined him losing interest and terminating the relationship. Fear consumed her, and Josephine panicked. Because of her neediness, she became suspicious of George and questioned and probed and pried. "Where have you been? Why didn't you call?" In time, George became agitated and ended the relationship, just as Josephine feared. You might think that Josephine and George would have eventually broken up anyway, but did fear hasten the process? Obsession with fear shuts out the ever-present, quiet, secure part of self. Warped thinking and desperation create fear. One way to combat fear is to place attention on what you're doing right now. Total involvement in the present activity shifts your mind to its purpose, and when your mind is occupied, there is no room for fear. Get quiet so that you can feel your calm, objective self. Think of something beautiful. Remember a time of great prosperity or success. Ponder someone you admire, love, or appreciate. What would it be like to be that person? Filling your mind with positives gives you the strength to firmly refuse fear when it arises. Fear and dependency require honest confrontation. However, you can't do this while emotionally paralyzed. View your fear objectively. Consider another way to handle your issue. The more you take control of your thoughts, the easier it is to be confident. This is Jean Walters Lucy, personal growth consultant. If you have a question or comment about today's show, we would love to hear from you. All you have to do is contact me through my website, which is spiritualtransformation.com, or call me at 314-991-8439.
You know, Jean, a war hero will tell you that they say, "Boy, you really did a fearless act," and they'll say, "No way, I was afraid."
Yes.
When there's a lot of people shooting at you, only a fool would not be afraid. I was afraid, but I mastered it.
Did it anyway, and that is important. We're going to have the fear. It's okay, because we're usually fearful about anything we haven't done before. It's an unknown, fear of the unknown. So do it. The more you do it, the less afraid you are, and the more you build up courage.
Jean, here's Dan, and he's today's first caller.
Dan, thank you for calling. Did you have a thought, question, or anything you'd like to comment on? Yes.
Yeah, I did. I'd like to take control of my mind a little bit more in my daily life, and just kind of wanted to know, how you can help me do that. Are there some techniques that you know of?
Certainly. Well, one thing for sure is the first thing you have to do is become observant. become the observer, as they say in some of the Eastern thought, is become the observer, and that means the observer of your thoughts. Because oftentimes we're the victim of our thoughts rather than the observer of our thoughts. So you want to begin paying attention. And one way that you can pay attention is to notice your body, for instance. Because when you're thinking a negative thought or a fearful thought, you're going to feel stress or tension in your body. So when you notice that, pay attention. What's going on here? And then take control. If you're thinking, oh, I'm afraid of something, then stop and ask yourself, is that realistic? Is it happening right now? And if it's not happening right now, then let it go. Release it. And the way you can do that is notice the body, release the stress from the body. Even exhaling is a way to begin to release stress. Does that help?
Yeah, it sure does.
The main thing is observation and the discipline to be able to stop and change. I think Rich had a thought for you.
One of the things, too, to get rid of fear is not to avoid it. Sometimes people hide things, or they just don't want to consider something, or they don't want to think about it. And so it doesn't go away, of course. It just lays there and festers and eventually becomes much worse than if you originally dealt with something. A good analogy is a camping trip. At night, you're in the tent, you hear noises, it's dark and scary. What's that? Oh, no. And if you said, let's get up and go in the woods, you'd say, no, no. Now, during the day, when you wake up, you're out, you're all over the campsite. It's a warm, sunny, beautiful place, and you don't have those fears. What is the difference? Darkness, not knowing, not seeing. So the answer to confronting a lot of your fears is bringing them out, examine them, and look at them, and you'll find out they're usually not nearly as bad as you thought they were when you were hiding them away.
Yeah, a good example was the boogeyman, that I grew up believing in the boogeyman, and I realized as an adult it was still plaguing me. I caught on to the idea that I was still afraid of this boogeyman, and I thought, well, there's no such thing as the boogeyman. What am I doing? Yeah. But I still was faced with the fear of the dark, so I had to keep walking into the dark little bit by little bit so that I could find out that there was nothing in the dark. So I don't know what your fears are particularly, but you might want to take these ideas and adapt them. What do you think?
Sure. I like the breathing technique, and I guess just kind of understanding some of the past fears or thoughts that we take along with us. I think that's really...
Yes. We
really
impose them, on ourselves. Khalil Gibran said, we lose our freedoms at the altar of fear. That's a nice way of saying it.
Yeah.
Dan,
I like that.
I've studied the martial arts for a very long time and had Oriental instructors, and one of them had an interesting thing. They always are very big on breathing. And when you inhale, you think in terms of also inhaling energy and light, and you exhale, you think that in your mind you're exhaling everything that's bugging you. Exhale stress, fear, and stuff goes out of you. So you're like inhaling good, and you're exhaling everything that you don't want. And one of my instructors used to do an interesting little thing. We would do this breathing exercise, and after he would exhale, he would look down the ground and kick something away, like it was dirt or something, laying there, and he would just kick it out of the way.
So that was all your stresses.
If you've seen the movie Green Mile, have you seen that?
Yes.
Remember the part when he would inhale their diseases and then exhale it, and came out, it looked like all these little
critters or something?
Yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
If that works for you, think about when you exhale the bad, or however you want to see it, going out.
Okay.
A lot of little ideas here that all they take is some application and keep trying and working with them, and you'll come up with exactly the right methods for you.
Yeah, it sounds like it. I'm writing them down.
Okay, that's great. Thank you so much. I really appreciate your call.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay,
All
bye.
Right, bye.
Gene, I think one of the key things is that we don't have to be subject, as you suggest right at the beginning. We don't have to be in the thrall of fear. It doesn't have to control us. We can control it.
I completely agree with you, but I really think that because we have really been in a fear-based society where everything is focused on as what's not here, what am I missing, what don't I have, what's wrong with me, I think it's all fear-based thinking, and we have to work really hard to switch all that and come from a different perspective. And it takes a lot of discipline.
going on in the news recently is another school shooting, and that certainly exacerbates everybody's fear. How would somebody deal with something like that? Mother in one town hears about this and they fear for their own children, especially maybe if their children are picked on or something like that. How would you deal with that kind of fear, Jean?
Well, you know what? I want to go through a little bit more of a global idea here, because I think a lot of those school shootings are happening of late because of just what I said earlier, that we live in a fear-based consciousness and we're always focusing on what's missing and what's wrong. And it was proven in the original school shooting way back that Columbine, I think it was, that those children that did their shooting were
Columbine, it's one of the best known, but it was certainly was not.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, they were felt ostracized. They felt different, and they were. I mean, they were behaving different. They were dressing different, and so forth. But in our society, because of this fear-based thinking, we've been taught to put down people who are different, or to find a way to be mean to them, disrespect them. And I think that when we learn to be more loving and compassionate, where people do what they do because they are in their own attempts reaching out, or their own attempts wanting love, wanting attention. Attention often equals love. And we're not used to looking at things that way. We're not used to seeing that somebody who's acting strangely really just doesn't know a way to relate or connect with people that is positive or healthy. So I'm suggesting that we have to start from a very core level in teaching our children, for instance, to be compassionate. When we become less judgmental ourselves, then we will be teaching our children to be non-judgmental as well. And this is a big project, but these things are happening to draw our attention to the fact that we've been coming from the wrong space in working with ourselves and working with our children and working with life.
God, nature, or whatever is always talking to us, always telling us things. And boy, here's a round of signals that something is very wrong.
Very much amiss, yes.
And you use the word attention, and the very basic place to start is parents, pay attention to your children.
I don't know if we have time, but I remember hearing our interview from Richard Gere, and he said that we have to get behind the Tibetans, and we have to save the Tibetans because the world needs their energy. And I thought that was a very interesting comment, because the Tibetan people are known to be very compassionate, very loving, very innocent, open people. And that's the kind of energy that we need to introduce to our children and to ourselves, rather than, oh, that person's different, you better watch out, you better be afraid of them, you better be angry at them, you better disrespect them. And that's a wrong message.
And also, too, we've got the modern husband and wife working family, and they're busy pursuing the good life, and they have jobs and stuff, and they're just not there for the children, and the children are being neglected and thinking, well, Dad would rather spend more time at the stock brokerage than he would with me. There's got to be something wrong with me, but.
Well, and I think it's the quality of time you spend. Sometimes it's not an option. Sometimes both parents have to work, and it's not an option. They have to. That's what's required to get the bills paid. But I do think it's the quality of time you spend with your kids when you are there. Are you patient? Are you kind? Do you take time to help them understand? To help them look at things from a more noble point of view, or to be less judgmental, or to be, empathetic. Those are important qualities, and you can do it in 1 second. You can do it in a minute. You can do it in 3 days. These are things that can be done daily and moment by moment, and it doesn't require tremendous talent, but we have to be willing to learn how to do that.
Jean, thank you once again for another great show, and today's show was entitled Fear Shuts Out the Peaceful Self.
Thank you.
This has been Positive Moments with Jean Walters Lucy, personal growth consultant, teacher, author, and lecturer. If you have comments or questions on any personal growth subject like universal law, dream interpretation, intuition, self-esteem, or self-empowerment, you can reach Jean at her website, www.spiritualtransformation.com, or call 314-991-8439 and leave a message. 314-991-8439. 8439. I'm Richard Miller, and we'll see you for your next Positive Moment.